Hello, hello, and welcome everyone. We are here today for Webinar Wednesday, and I absolutely love doing our Webinar Wednesday sessions because it's a great opportunity for me to talk about some of the trends, talk about some of the things that are happening in the world as far as marketing, vegan business growth, and just give you some insight into things that we're doing and doing with our customers and our clients to help them grow. I'm excited about today's session because we're not just talking about what should you do, what you should be putting in place, but we're talking about how do we take what you're working on and make it better? How do we make sure that the marketing that you have in place gets kind of a revitalization, really gets an opportunity to maybe do again, produce again. And I love talking about how to get more out of what you're currently doing when it comes to your marketing, because often I think we fall into the trap when we're thinking about how to grow our business, when we're thinking about how to better service our customers, when we're thinking about more products and services we need. We often think we need more, 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 as opposed to sitting down and reflecting. And that's really going to be kind of the theme of today, is thinking about what has happened, what has gone well, what can we enhance, and really making sure you have a good strategy around what and how you want your marketing to be different this year. And then from that, what are some of the tools and some of the kind of techniques that we have in place and things that we're doing that I would recommend that you put in place so you can continue to see growth in how you're growing your business. All right. So, as I always start with our presentation, I just love to ground ourselves in our focus. And as I mentioned before, not only are we talking about revitalizing your marketing approach, I really want you to kind of sit with this idea that at times when we build out our marketing, at times when we think about our marketing, is that marketing can get stale at times. Marketing can be something that works great, and then all of a sudden it stops. It literally does not produce the results anymore, or it produced results for someone else, but for some reason it doesn't work for you. It doesn't work in your industry. It doesn't work for your customers. It doesn't work for product A, but it works for product B. There can be a slew of reasons why, and we can talk about some of them today if you do have questions specifically for your brand or business. But the idea is that marketing can go stale. And what I want you to think about and realize in today's session is that we can't keep doing the same thing. When you're starting to see challenges, when you're starting to see your marketing not produce, I want you to start to make a shift and get comfortable with change, with putting new processes in place, as well as using some of the fancy tools that are out there to see if you can take something that was working for you and make it better, or something that may have worked for someone else and making some of those slight tweaks to it so it can work for you. Because otherwise, you can sit kind of in a pool of frustration. And what can happen at times is when you sit in that kind of like pool of frustration at times, you can feel like everything doesn't work. You kind of like throw your arms up in the air. And what can happen is that frustration can keep you from moving forward. So, I'm your presenter today, Stephanie Red Cross West. And if you've never been here or never been to any of my webinars before, first off, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. It's so great to see new faces. It's so great to see names or people that maybe haven't joined us before. And I also always want to reiterate, kind of as your presenter here, is that I love marketing. I love what it can do for your business. I love the idea that we can build these businesses that can help us not only change the world, but help individual people, help people who have big challenges, whether it's health challenges, whether people are trying to go plant-based, get healthier, whether people are trying to enhance the quality of life, helping people, with sustainability, taking really better care of the earth, taking better care of animals. There's just so much change we need in the world. And what I love about all of these great vegan businesses that are coming about is that many of you are being those trailblazers. You're creating products, you're creating services to help become really just a better place for all beings. And with that, what I want to be today is hopefully a guide and hopefully a person that can inspire you to move forward if you're struggling. Hopefully be a place where I can give you ideas on maybe marketing techniques that you've been struggling with, or just give you a kind of space and time today to reflect on what's going on, reflect on what's happening in your business, and emerge from this webinar or maybe emerge from this week with a different perspective on how you can move forward in your business, especially if things are not going as well as you thought. All right. So, as we think about reflecting, as we start thinking about what has worked, one thing that I often want to have people do in their business, and I know we're around like the February timeline, and I love doing this webinar in February as opposed to in January because January is crazy busy. We're trying to put plans in place, we're trying to sometimes work on our personal goals. We are, it's just so much change and transition happening in January that I want some of that dust to kind of settle. And I want you to think about kind of this as we're moving into March, as we're preparing for like the year ahead. I want you to make sure you've taken some time to reflect on not only the prior year, but reflect on what's happening in your business. Reflect on what's working in your business. And what I often ask people to do when you're having challenges with your marketing is to start to do a channel by channel review. Now, I'm curious, you can let me know in the comments if you've ever done this in your business. But I think it's so important for us at times to sit down and review our marketing and say, okay, what worked and what didn't work? Now, the reason I love to do these reflection points is because sometimes what didn't work speaks way louder than what did work. And what can happen is what didn't work can take up all the kind of oxygen in the air. And when we let what didn't work take up all the oxygen in the air, we miss out on marketing opportunities that we can put in our business and scale up to drive success. Instead, we're focused on the problems. We're focused on what's broken. And I do want to make sure that we, freshen things up, but I also want to make sure that you're not missing something that could just use a small bump, could use a small increase, that could actually get a little bit more attention or focus and maybe produce more in your business. So if you're struggling, if you're finding things aren't working, spend some time and go channel by channel. Email marketing, what's working, what's not working. Social media, what's working, what's not working. And even in social media, break it down. YouTube, Instagram, whatever platform you're in, I want you to be able to answer that question and be able to say, this is what's working and this isn't what's working, and have that identified. The next step I want you to take is I want you to say, well, what do you learn from that? And what do you learn from both sides? The things that are working, what are you learning from that? And what didn't work, what did you learn? Because what can happen as a result of something that doesn't work is only the emotions come out of it, as opposed to sitting back and saying, well, what did I learn about what didn't work? Was it the type of copy I put out? Was it the type of images? Was it the timing? Did I do something maybe a little bit different than I've ever done before? And I bring this up. We work with a client where we do a lot of YouTube marketing. And one thing we're constantly testing is when to post the YouTube videos. And it's interesting. We will find some videos will do great on weekends. Some videos will do great at nights, during weekdays. Some videos do better in the middle of the day. And by testing some of those different variations, we're learning what's working. Now, in some cases, it's not 100% clear. We're not sure why this one did better than that one. And we may need more time. We may need to do more testing. But by reflecting on things, what it's helped us do is just fine tune the times and days that we post content, the times and days that we're posting, and seeing that even a great video posted on an off time or an off day may yield a different result. And that's what I mean by looking at what's not working, because often it doesn't mean it has to be completely scrapped. And it doesn't often mean that it isn't, it isn't redeemable. Often there's something that you can do there. The other thing is, when you're thinking about a campaign, when you're thinking about what you're working on, yes, we got to figure out what we learned, but I also want to know, what would you do again? Like, what would you try again? Now, I know some of us are a little more conservative people. So therefore, if you're like, if it didn't work, I'm not doing it again. I can understand that. That's one school of thought. But what I also want you to think about is when you're running your business, the actions you're taking in your business is a series of testing, is a series of trials. It's a series of campaigns that you're going to be running that are ultimately going to help you sell your service, sell your product, connect with your customers, better support your customers, provide better products and services, or roll out better products and services. So, a result of that is you trying to do something again. And one thing I want you to realize is that sometimes in your marketing, doing it once is not enough. You often will have to try to make what you did better by performing some of the similar activities again, but layering on either better component, better videos, better copy, or timing, like I mentioned before. So I don't want you to always walk away with just a lesson learned. What I also want you to walk away with is the courage to try again, the kind of confidence to say, well, what if I did a couple of things different? Could I get a better result? Maybe I don't want to get what I got before, but being able to and being comfortable with the idea that often you will have to do something again, try to do it again to improve it as opposed to trashing that idea. All right. So, general concept, general perspective on what you can do. Now, for some of you, you're like, okay, I got that, but how do I get there? Like, how do I actually build a plan? How do I actually refresh this actual marketing? And one thing I find when you're thinking about applying it, when you're thinking about applying this channel by channel review, when you're thinking about refreshing your marketing, I want to make sure you haven't missed a shift in the world. What can happen sometimes in our businesses is we're so deep in our businesses. We are literally working on every tactical piece of our business, and we don't come up for air. We don't realize that what the consumer wants is a little bit different. What the consumer need is has maybe shifted a little bit. Maybe their expectations have changed. And some of this happens especially in vegan businesses, because for many of us who've maybe been in business for a while, when you first started, there weren't a lot of options, meaning there weren't a lot of vegan skincare products. There weren't a lot of vegan, clothing options. There weren't a lot of vegan, food options. So therefore, you were going into a space where there was so much demand and so much need, and there weren't enough products to really meet that demand and meet that need. But the world might have shifted on you. More people have come into the market. More people are interested in diverse options around what is their vegan version of or veganized version of the products that they need and the services that they need. And as that world shifts, that means your brand and your marketing has to shift too. So I want to make sure before we start to put like a plan in place, you understand what has shifted. And that means looking at direct competition. That means looking at, whether you're doing classes or courses or products, what are the products? What are some of the differences in the products that people are offering? What are differences in the services? So if you're doing cooking classes, what's different in cooking classes now? What has changed in the last 2 or 3 years in a cooking class? Because it's very easy to say, well, I'm a cooking instructor, I teach classes. Classes are classes. Yes, they're components of classes that are same, but there are many things that are different and have changed along the way. The same thing that comes with physical products, whether you're selling vegan makeup, whether you're selling vegan purses. People's needs are different and the requirements have changed. And I want to make sure you understand what that landscape is and how does that change not only the core product and service that you offer, but more importantly for today's discussion, how does that change your marketing? Also, I want you to think about adjacent markets. What's happening around your market that's impacting your market? We're seeing a lot more products. People are demanding for more clean products, more sustainable products, products with less packaging on them. And therefore, as we're seeing that happen kind of everywhere, that's going to impact your products and services because anything that has a lot of packaging in it, people are going to be concerned about. So therefore, you're going to need to make sure not only do you make that change, but your marketing has to let the world know that you have changed. The world has to know that you have improved your products, you've improved your carbon footprint, you've improved the way that you run your business to respond to the needs of your community. And if you miss that element in your marketing, what can happen is people don't realize that you've risen to the occasion. So therefore, always make sure that you understand what shifts have happened in the world so we can incorporate that into your marketing. All right. So now that we understand some shifts, maybe you've done some research. And when I say understanding shifts, one small, I guess, piece about this shift piece, everyone asks me, like, how do I do it? Like, well, how do I get this information? Literally, pick a couple of different brands that are in your market, follow them on social media, get on their email list, visit their websites. There's a tool called the Wayback Machine. You can actually look at people's websites back in the day and see what their website looked like a year ago and see what that changes. This is a little bit of a mini research project, but I say mini research project because this is only something you're going to spend maybe an hour or two on. And I would spread that out maybe in like 30-minute segments or 40-minute segments or something like that. And you're just gathering some information and getting a sense of what's changed. This isn't something where you're going to be researching it for 10 hours or multiple days, but I do want to make sure that you get in there and understand. And then once you understand, it's time for us to start looking at your marketing strategy. I need you to start thinking about your marketing strategy for 2024. Now, for many of you, you should have a plan in place. You should have a sense of what you're planning to accomplish this year. If you haven't figured out your goals and done your planning, we have training on our website to go check it out. So just drop me a link and I can point you in that direction. But when it comes to refreshing the stale, when it talks about kind of revitalizing and building a marketing plan, often what I tell people is to build kind of a one pager. And this is a good example of what a one pager can look like. This is a great way to have a great kind of overview of what your marketing is, what each channel is doing. So each channel is listed on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side is what is the objectives of your marketing and how is your marketing moving someone through those purchasing kind of cycle, that decision of understanding who you are, what's going on, how you can help them, and then how do and when do they decide to buy. Now, I love for this to be in your own words. Yes, we all know there's like an awareness stage and, there are all these different stages to the customer kind of buying cycle. But I want you to think about for your business, for your brand, what are those stages? Now, I like to keep it simple and just have 3 on the right-hand side of the page. Can you have more? Absolutely. But I like to kind of really hone in on like, what are the 3 things I'm really focused on as far as the objectives of my marketing? And then I can sit down and say, okay, by channel, how does each of those channels help me impact that objective? So for me, kind of one of the big things we're trying to do is, yes, is that awareness interest phase. But if I had to say a key word of what we're trying to do in 2024, it would be around curiosity, helping people have a natural curiosity about our brand, what we can do, how can we help them, helping people get or kind of be curious about who we are and what we do, to me is a great opportunity to build on. Because once someone is curious about what you do, they're often going to be asking questions. And if you can get someone to ask questions about who you are and how you can help them, how they can work with you, how what you offer can help them achieve their goals, their dreams, their objectives, what you've done is you started a conversation. And to me, marketing should be as much of a conversation as possible, as much of a almost feeling like a two-way street and an opportunity for people to get to know your business and your brand, get to know your services, and better understand not only how it can help them, but ultimately, like I have kind of in that 3rd bullet point, is to become that resource that whether you're their go-to product, whether you're the service that they need to get to that next stage, whether you're the ongoing support that they need so they can build confidence over time, or they're coming to you for inspiration. They need that flame lit, and you are that person that lights that flame. So think about what those objectives are. Once you have those written down, then I want you to go channel by channel and start to think about what is the objective for each one of those channels and how do those channels help you meet your marketing objectives. This is how you're going to breathe life back into those channels. Now, I do this mostly from doing some of that reflecting, doing some of that research of what's going on, what's happening, and by also making sure that I've fine tuned what a channel's supposed to do. Because I think for a lot of us, when we think about our marketing, we just do the channel. Like we're in social media, we're like, okay, I got to post some images, I have to post some videos. And that's good. You have to post content. That is at the base level of what you have to do. But I would argue that it is a channel, just like any other channel. And the question would be, what do you want people to experience in that channel? How is that channel helping you with your marketing objectives? How is that channel helping you better serve your customers? And if you can't articulate that, you have some work to do. And that's what this exercise is going through each channel and saying, what's the even purpose of it? Because you may find that some channels are doing the same work. And therefore, until you separate those two channels, the reason you may be getting mediocre results is because the channels aren't either clear on what they're supposed to be doing, or the channels are a little bit kind of, if they're muddy in your mind, they're probably a little bit muddy in the customer's mind or potential customer's mind. So sit down and evaluate each one of these channels and say, if you're doing a podcast, what's it for? For us, our podcast is really about that kind of a little bit more intimate learning environment. I feel like when we're in a podcast, I'm almost like whispering in someone's ear. I'm speaking in someone's ear. And it becomes an opportunity for people to almost feel like they're just sitting down or sitting in a room with me. Maybe it's a small audience, maybe it's just a couple of people, that kind of environment, just giving you a visual on it. But what I want it to feel like is they're just sitting down and listening to ideas, listening to things that they can do, things that they can consider. And it doesn't feel like it's a very intimidating environment. It's not an environment where they're showing up and they're expected to do anything. It's not an environment where they feel like they have to take action right away. It's just an environment so that they can be around the information that they need to move forward. And therefore, when I'm designing my podcast, I design it with that intention in mind. I use that as the approach. And therefore, for us to get better results in our podcast, I start to lean into that methodology and test that methodology and see if it gets us better results. And that's how you take something that maybe you've been doing for years, like for us, we've been doing podcasts for years, or maybe you take something that doesn't seem like it's working. What you do is better define what it's for and then start to implement that change. Understand your metrics. So you need a before metric and an after metric. So if any of your channels you're making changes in, make sure you grab the metric, whether it's views, downloads, conversions, registrations, whatever, metrics you're going to use. Download what those numbers are, mark them, do the change that you're going to do. And we're going to talk about some more changes you can do. And then look at those metrics again. And by doing that before and after kind of evaluation, what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to say if the change made a difference, number one. And number two, by being very clear and intentional on what is the purpose of that channel, what we can do is say, do people feel like they're learning? You could do a survey. You could do a focus group for your podcast listeners. You could set up a phone number for people to dial in and talk about what their experience is and why they enjoy your podcast. And therefore, if people say, well, it's a great learning environment, it feels very intimate, it feels very personal, then you know you've achieved what you wanted to achieve. All right. Now, for some of you may be hearing all of this and you're like, Steph, I already got a lot of work to do. I don't know if I got all that time to spend on a podcast. I'm not saying that everyone has to go through 50 steps for every type of channel that you have. What I'm really trying to give you here is examples of how deep you can go, how much you can perfect something by really understanding it. But your baseline approach and your baseline to do as a result of this webinar is to sit down and understand for each of your channels, what's the purpose? How does it help support your marketing? Whether it's for, I use my things like I love one for like personal reflections because I like to teach. But what I also found for a lot of people over the years is that we needed marketing where I show people how I use the techniques that I recommend so that everything isn't just me saying, you should do it. I show people how I try it, how I've tested things, what's worked for me, what hasn't worked for me, and giving people that insight into what it's like for me to walk in the same shoes that I know many of the people that I teach walk in helps people see me not only from a different perspective, but they can also see the ups and downs of the experience and understand kind of the reality of what it is to kind of walk through building a stronger and better business. The other thing I love to do is use email as a what's happening. Email to me is kind of like, hey, this is the summer of everything we got going on. We got events, we got activities, we got programs, we got products, we got a live session tonight or a webinar today or anything like this. I love to use content and courses as expertise. I also do this for PDFs or downloadable items, having marketing that gives me a cornerstone place to show my expertise and show it in a way where it's kind of written down and documented. I love these webinars because you can learn it live and I can answer questions live. But it's a lot to kind of like take in and listen to. So I want people to be able to go to my website and download a guide, download a document, download a checklist so they have something that they can use. And then our newest element that we've been adding to our marketing is our community, and our communities around driving engagement, allowing people to be able to interact with us on a longer term basis. Now, this is what we're doing. This may not be 100% what you're doing. I'm not trying to say you have to follow my descriptions for each of these channels. I'm only trying to show you how I use what I'm teaching you in my business as well. So what I want you to do is put down your channels. Think about how what each of your channels should be doing, how it ties to your objective. And then after you know that, then what you start to do is you will start to be prepared to build a campaign. You'll be prepared to start to say, all right, how do I turn this into something that drives sales in my business? How do I turn these concepts into something that helps me build my business? And the way you do that is you can say, okay, now I know where I'm focusing on these items. I'm going to build a baseline version of the marketing for that channel. And your baseline is normally what's kind of your standard, meaning what's the thing that you're going to do all year long? I send out newsletters every 2 weeks. Like on social media, you're going to go live on Instagram once a month. In channels like a podcast, you're going to do a podcast, whether it's the frequency of your podcast or the format of your podcast. Some people have guests in their podcast. Some people do solo podcasts. Some people mix it up. But understanding what's kind of that baseline, like what's the standard that you're going to do. And this is a part of that refreshing the stale, because what a lot of people do in their marketing is they either do one standard thing all the time, or they're doing what we call blitz marketing. They're constantly like piloting new things all the time, or they're just testing. And what I find is to build a sustainable and strong marketing plan, you really need all three of these components. You need to actually build a baseline of things that you consistently do. And that baseline gives you control. That baseline gives you marketing throughout the year. And that baseline allows you to stabilize your marketing because you know where you're going. You're going to consistently do those items. That doesn't mean you're not going to tweak them and leverage your learning. But what I don't want you to do is stay in blitz mode only or stay in baseline mode only. What I want you to literally do is say, I'm going to build a baseline for how I market product A. I'm going to build some elements in there where I'm going to be piloting and testing things on top of that baseline program. I'm going to be piloting new things. And then I'm going to do things periodically throughout the year that allow me to test, that allow me to optimize what my multi-pronged approach to your marketing. What I find is your marketing almost never goes stale, because what's built into the process is a standard way to make it better, a standard way to make it stronger, a standard way for you to understand what does work, what maybe hasn't worked, what's new, and what to do next, or what to repeat is the word I really meant to say. And that takes us kind of full circle back to where we were at the beginning, where we ultimately are able to say, what are we doing now? What are we going to change? And what are we going to test? ultimately building that kind of building blocks around your marketing. Does that make sense so far? Let me just take a quick breather there. Any questions so far on what I mean? In the next slide, I'm going to show you an actual campaign that has standards, that has blitz, that has testing on it, so you can actually see it. But I want to make sure that you're kind of comfortable with the concept of it so that we can build from there. And the reason I'm kind of harping on this or giving you this kind of theoretical foundation is that I want you to realize that marketing is not one dimensional. I think sometimes when we look at other people's marketing, they're like, oh, I just do Facebook ads. And yes, you may do Facebook ads, but to do Facebook ads well, you're going to have a baseline. You're going to have one ad, one type of ad that you're constantly using. And that ad's going to be your control. It's going to be your baseline. And you're going to do it year in and year out, or you're going to do it, over a certain amount of months. Then against that ad, which is going to be like almost like your control, you're going to pilot maybe a new ad type, maybe a new, you're going to do some video ads in addition to still images, or maybe you're going to do some dynamic ads on top of that. But what happens is your baseline is still running and you're going to pilot these new things. Then when you take a look at that campaign, you're going to look at it and say, okay, I blitzed some ideas in there and tested it. Blitzed some ideas just to see what's going on. I have my standard, what's working well. Then you're going to optimize and say, okay, video 1 and video 2 did pretty good. I'm going to take maybe video 1 that did well, put it into my baseline. I'm going to take video 2. I'm going to make some small tweaks to it and put it into my testing phase to actually see if I make some small tweaks to it. Does it beat the original video, or do I get better results? And by creating that kind of dynamic marketing, that's what your actual ad campaign is. It isn't just waking up one day, creating 3 videos, creating 3 images, jumping on Facebook, giving them, a budget and saying, hey, just run with the ad. What a much more comprehensive marketing plan looks like is having a baseline, having a blitz, and having a testing strategy. Now, is that something you're going to roll out like tomorrow? Maybe not. It's going to take some time. You're going to get that baseline in place to figure out when that blitz is. And then after you get some of those blitzes going, you're going to test against this. But remember, this is a long-term plan. These are things that you're trying to build strong in your business, as well as a blitz and the test don't have to be so complicated. So let me show you what I mean when I'm running these campaigns, because I think when I show you what I mean, it will make it feel a little more tangible. All right. So this is an example of doing a course promo plan. So say, for example, you are going to be launching a brand new course, right? And when you're launching a brand new course, you want to have a level of promotions to get people excited about the course, aware of the course, and so forth. What I often tell people to do is every time they launch a course, so if you're a person that runs a business and you're always doing new courses or variations in that course, you're going to have baseline marketing every time you do a course. Then what you're going to say is, for this new course, whatever, let's say March 2024's course, you're going to say, okay, I'm going to put this in place. I'm going to do this blitz type of marketing. And then from there, you may do some testing beyond this 30 days that's going to take whatever worked in this first 30-day launch and continue that testing to make it better. All right. Now, this can work for courses. This can work for products. This can work for cooking instructors. This can work for even restaurants. This is not something that I want you to look at this and say, well, this isn't my business. How is it going to work for my business? It works for all types of businesses. The hardest part is just getting it down on paper so you can see it. So what you'll see here is I'm sitting down and saying, okay, what are all the channels I'm going to involve? So number one, best way to refresh the stale is to make sure you are using multiple channels in your marketing. A lot of people will rely on one channel for their marketing or 2 channels for their marketing. I often find you need at least 3 to 4 channels to make a dynamic campaign, and to often make sure your marketing stays kind of fresh and make sure your marketing stays diverse. Now, that doesn't mean 3 or 4 social media channels. You could have one social media channel you're on, email, website, or something on, lead generation wise, and then something on the personal side. But what I want you to do is always think about having diverse content and marketing materials in different channels. All right. The other thing is we're going to figure out what's the baseline. What's the baseline you're going to do in social media? What's the baseline you're going to do in email? What's the baseline you're going to do in the example here, website? And then the baseline is what I kind of call our personal marketing. Now, these 4 channels can be any channel. So if you're setting this up for your business, just put your channels in these 4 blocks. Now, one of the channels I have in here is getting personal. I use that because I find, as far as a marketing trend, more and more people want their marketing to feel personalized. More and more people want to feel like their marketing is diverse and dynamic. And they want to feel like that marketing that they're getting isn't just marketing that they've seen for the last 5-10 years, or just marketing that somebody else did. And therefore, you're just copying kind of that same formula. So therefore, I always like to have one of my channels be something that is me stretching myself, me doing something a little bit different in our marketing, and making sure that I'm meeting kind of the needs of today's people, not just the channels of old. Now, I don't want to make it sound like email's an old channel, because email is a great channel, works well. It's not a dying channel. I know there's a lot of debate about it. It's a great channel, works really well for people. But I do like to make sure I have some more trendy kind of approaches in my marketing, in addition to my core channels that perform as well. The other thing I like to do is say, okay, what's my baseline? So here you're seeing the black text is our baseline. Now for you, this may not be your baseline, but my baseline is, okay, in social media, we always do about 10 posts. In email marketing, we do about 2-3 emails. The purple text there is what I normally am adding on, and what we've been testing often as what we call our blitz marketing. All right. And then what I have in the orange, these are things that we've been doing as tests to see if they work. So when you look at a marketing campaign, when you look at you promoting something, I love to use colors. So this is just my approach to it. But being able to say, okay, what's piece is baseline? What piece am I doing as part of the blitz? And what pieces am I doing that are things that I'm going to test? Now, I've been doing this for a while, so there's a lot of bullet points here. For some of you, it may just be 2 bullet points on social media, 3 bullet points on email, 2 bullet points on the website, and whatever your category is, whether it's personal or a different marketing channel, maybe 1 bullet point under there. It's not the number of things that you have in here. It's the diversity of it within those channels. So that's the one thing I want you to take away. The other thing is, when you're building these campaigns, when you're kind of refreshing, revitalizing your campaign, sometimes what it means is doing what you already did and just adding that blitz. So even if I didn't add the orange items, just me sitting down and saying, okay, this is what we did before. It's worked before, not maybe working as well, or I've ascended to a new level in my business and I need my business to, generate more. These blitz are just going to go on top of it. That's how you add that element. You just do what you were continuing doing before, but by adding additional components, they can help. And let me use an example here. One thing that we found worked really well in our blitzes is by giving people free access to lessons in a course. Now, for us, that was a blitz because when we were just doing the courses, when I first started, we just created the courses, promoted the courses, and told everyone what the courses are about. But what we found is a blitz kind of marketing idea for us was by giving people limited time access to a lesson in a course, what they were able to do is get a sense of what we were really selling. Because when you have a physical product, like, you're selling something like a water bottle, I'm looking at things on my desk, when you have a physical product like headphones, or you have something like that, a vegan purse, sometimes people want to feel it, touch it, and see it before they buy. And what we found is for educational materials like courses and so forth, it was hard for people to feel like they could see it, touch it before they bought it. But what we found is a way to give them that kind of satisfaction was to offer them free lessons. And that what that meant is it didn't mean extra work on our part. It just meant the software that we were using, we needed a way that people could look at lesson, if it's a 10 lesson course, could they take a look at lesson 1? Can they just be able to take it and use it? The other benefit that we found from offering one of or a couple of free lessons in a course is that people could get a benefit from the course before they even bought the course. And what happens is it created a different experience for people. People were more intrigued to sign up. More people actually converted faster after taking advantage or using one of our free lessons because they felt if they got results from one lesson out of 10 or 15, they felt confident that they could get similar results from the other lessons. And that's how your marketing should work. Your marketing should bring something to the table, like a new option, a new feature, a blitz should bring a new capability, a new feature, and a new benefit for the people that are going to buy your product. Now, I'm using courses as an example. Anyone need an example for your industry, your business, your product? If you want, just drop it in the chat. If you're watching us on the live stream, just drop it in the chat for any of the social media platforms you're on, and it'll pop up on my screen. I'm just going to click on my little comments button so I can see it. And then I can give you examples or help you apply it. But ultimately, what I do want to make sure you take away from today's webinar is that when you want to refresh your marketing, understand what your baseline is and identify those blitz and those tests, and then work your way through rolling those out and implementing them. Okay? Now, that's a campaign. That's what it looks like. This is how you can build a campaign for anything that you sell, anything that you promote. And whether it's a 30-day campaign, 60-day campaign, 90-day campaign, whether it's even a 12-month campaign, all of them can have a level of the baseline, the blitz, and the testing. All right. Now, the thing I get from some people are they're like, okay, Steph, I understand the marketing, I understand the plan, but what are some of the nitty-gritty things I should be doing? Like, what's the cool stuff that people are doing today? What are things that I can use to find that edge to move my marketing forward? Oh, hey, Karen, how you doing? Oh, yeah, I can definitely give you an example for cooking classes. Let me just finish this one thought, and then I can give you an example of that as well. One thing I want to also leave you with today are some of the tools and things that you can use that can help you get to those revitalization, those ways of making your marketing better. Because sometimes you're like, I know it should be better, but I don't really know what to do. So I want to give you a couple of different ideas and a couple of things that are fairly trendy these days that I believe can help you get there. But before I do that, I do want to answer the question about applying this to a cooking class as an example. So if you're doing a cooking class, there's two different ways to build out your marketing plan for a cooking class. Number one, I would look at your cooking classes for the year. I would look at a calendar for the year. Now, it may be too hard to plan 12 months or 6 months of marketing out at a time, so I completely understand that. So whether you know where you're going the next 3 months, whether you know you're going next 6 months or 12 months, will dictate how you change the plan. But what I tell people for cooking classes is I love to have my baseline be how do I promote classes on a consistent basis? And what I mean by that is if you know your calendar, you know what classes are coming up, you know what those dates are, you want to have a standard kind of process in each one of these channels, which is how do you announce the class? How do you encourage people to register for the class, meaning like midway through your registration period? And how do you do something that we kind of call the last minute, last chance to register? That process should flow through your website, flow through your email marketing, flow through your social media marketing. And that may mean in social media, that's 3 posts. So an example here, I have 10 posts. That's just 3 of the 10 posts that has that specific messaging in it. The reason I like that messaging, especially when it comes to cooking classes, because they're so time sensitive, meaning if it's on Tuesday, they got to sign up by Tuesday to be able to get into the class, or maybe, you cut off registration the night before. Those are going to be things that you're going to always do. And how you do it may change, whether you do a video that you post on social media, whether it's a graphic that you post on social media, maybe an email. It can be a very basic kind of announcement email. And the announcement email doesn't have to be one class at a time. You may announce in email all the classes for that month, all the classes for the next 2 months. But in social media, it may be an individual post for each class. And that's your core. You're trying to say, as a baseline for every class that I offer, what do I do? How do I get that information out there? That's my core. Same thing on your website. Do you have pop-ups that come up to let people know if a class is 30 days out? If someone's on your website, something pops up and says, hey, FYI, hold on. Sorry about that. I knew a sneeze was coming. One thing that you want to do is you want to be able to say, okay, I always do a pop-up to just let people know. Maybe it's not a pop-up. Maybe you have a bar at the top of your website that has a countdown timer. And there's always a countdown timer until your next class. So everyone knows when they come to your website, any point, any day, any time, they will always know that a cooking class is coming up in the next 28 days, 38 days, 12 days, 13 days. And same thing, that can be your baseline marketing. That's what I want you to do, is figure out what that is. Then on top of that, you may say, okay, what do I want to try? What do I want to do differently? What do I want to test out for a couple of different classes in the year, whether they're new classes you haven't done before, whether they're classes that you've done before, but they maybe didn't fill up or sell out. The question would be, what could you do differently? And the blitz marketing may be something like having someone who's a previous student to one of those classes and asking them if they'll do a live stream with you and talk about the class, what they enjoyed about the class. How did it help them long-term, not just the benefit of the class and being there? And how has it helped them achieve their goal? Maybe by doing that as a live stream, that's going to be pre-recorded, right? Or I'm not pre-recorded, it's going to be recorded. That's what I meant to say. Once that's recorded, you have that content. So it's great because you did it as a blitz. Boom. It's up there, it's out there. Did it help you promote that class? But because it's a recorded video, now you can download it and then you can cut it up into segments. You can turn it into reels. You can turn it into shorts. You can turn it into additional marketing material so that the next time you email about that class or any of your classes, you might include a link. Like, remember we talked about that email that's like your baseline email that gives people an update on like the classes for the next 30 days or the classes for the next 60 days. What you might end up doing is sending out that calendar, but in there, you're going to include a link and say, hey, if you're curious about what people are saying about my classes, if you're curious about how people are enjoying your classes, I did a recent interview with one of my students, click here and go check it out. And now what we're doing is we're taking a video that was used to promote one class, and we're reusing that to help enhance your other marketing. And by adding that enhancement, whether it's linking to the full content or slicing it up and using it in different social media channels, now we're blitzing our way to success. And then finally, what you want to do is you want to start testing different things. You may start testing different times for your classes. You may test evening versus weekend classes. You may need to be testing different elements, but the same thing goes with your marketing. You want to think on top of how you do your cooking class marketing, what are things that you want to test? And that's how you would apply this process. You would literally just write those bullet points in each one of these columns and say, hey, this is my baseline. These are the things I'm going to try to blitz and try. I love to, especially if you're going to do something over 6 months or 12 months, I'll put a bracket behind each one of these and say when I'm going to do it. So if you're going to do that testimonial interview, you might say, okay, I'm going to do that in May. You may say, okay, I'm going to do a live learning experience. I'm going to give people like a cooking class teaser. They're not going to get the whole class because the class is what they pay for, but you're going to do a teaser. And maybe you're going to do a series of those teasers and you're going to do one every other month. Or maybe you're going to do a weekly live stream that leads up to every single one of your classes. You go live 3 days in a row, 3 times in a row, leading up to a class saying, hey, we got a class coming up. I just want to give you guys behind the scenes, what it's like for our prep. This is how I get ready for a class. This is what you're going to experience. And what happens is these all blitzes are going to be opportunities you can put in there, and then you can put dates and assign it to it. And that's how you build out your plan. Does it have to be perfect? Does it have to be perfectly aligned? Meaning like I got 3 in April and 2 in July and 10 in October? No, it doesn't. This is just you building that plan and getting a sense of where you're going to go. And then from that, you can start to implement it. Okay. So I hope that was helpful. And I'm sorry, Karen, I tend to do a little bit long answer there, but hopefully that was helpful. All right. So let's talk about ideas. Let's talk about things you can do. And oh no, it's almost 3 o'clock. So I'm going to go through these really, really fast. But remember, you can always come back to this because we'll have the recording on the site. So number one thing is when I'm trying to revitalize my marketing, often it feels like I don't, it's like, what do I do? It's like I put all my ideas out there. I tried everything, didn't I? Like I didn't hold back. That's not why my marketing's not working or why something's not working. It's not like I didn't do something. You often kind of feel depleted already. So what I find is you need a way that's going to help you with ideation. You need something that's going to help you with brainstorming. You're going to need something that's going to help kind of lift your spirits and help you with new ideas. And one thing that I think is a great tool to use is AI. Now, I know not everyone loves AI. I know there's some, dark corners about AI as well. So I'm not trying to say AI is the be all and everything to your marketing. Remember, when you're struggling, often you need a way to kind of expand your capabilities as a marketer. And what I find is AI helps you do that. And let me give you some examples of that. When you're seeing a product's maybe not selling as well, or something's not doing well on your site, I think it's really interesting to take a cooking class description, to take a product description, to take a program that you offer description and drop it in an AI tool and have them rewrite it, have them polish up the content, have them revitalize the text. And it doesn't mean, I don't want you to just take everything, drop it into AI and just post it on your site. I still want it to have your own original voice to it. So you may have to rework it. My goal isn't for you to, I don't want your site to A, sound robotic, and B, I don't want your site to sound like everyone else's site. But sometimes when I'm looking for inspiration for writing, seeing a different style or way of writing content can make a difference. And you can use even basic tools like Grammarly to help you do that. Yes, there's all the other AI tools out there, but there's so many ways that AI is enhancing and being kind of incorporated into software you're already using. So look to see if the software that you're using can help you do that. The other thing I like to do when it comes to writing content or ideas is, most videos that you create these days, you have to write a description, whether you put it in YouTube, whether it's a reel that you're going to put in Instagram, or short you're going to put in YouTube. And those descriptions you want to include. And sometimes you can have writer's block, or you could do sometimes I batch videos, like I'll do 10 videos. And then when it's time for me to write the description, I'm like, well, wait a minute, what did I really say? So I started to use software. The one that's at the top is called Nota. And I use Nota as software. What it'll do is it'll actually pull a transcript from my video. But more importantly, what I love that it does an AI summary of my video. So if I do a 15-minute video or a 20-minute video I'm going to put on YouTube, or a client sends us a video that we're going to put on YouTube, we will actually have the transcript pulled from it. And then AI will do a summary of it. And that summary is what we'll use as our baseline for description. So that way, the team doesn't have to watch a whole video. That way, for me, if I did a video and I can't remember all the nuances of everything I said because I recorded it and it's been edited and it's been all these other things, I can actually get that AI summary. It helps me have a different way of presenting my video to the world. It also will help you when it comes to things like A/B testing, because what we find is for promotions in most marketing tools, it's going to be the title of your video. It's going to be the text in your thumbnail that's going to get people to click on it. It's going to be the caption in the video in social media, or the subject line in your email. And if you're sitting there saying, well, I don't know what to test against or what to put in the subject line, by using things like AI, it can give you ideas on what you could test, what you can test against the subject line that you want to put in there as an alternate to see which one would be better. And this is how you enhance your marketing with not a lot of work. What you're doing is using AI to say, if what I thought would work works, or should I test it against an AI, recommendation to see which one gets me better results. And what I love about bringing AI to your marketing party is that now your marketing ideas are not just coming from you. They're coming from AI to help you see things a little bit differently and to help you explore different ways of expressing your content and your information. So, as much as you can, if you use a lot of YouTube, there's a tool I use called TubeBuddy that I absolutely love. TubeBuddy will help you with that A/B testing. And what I mean by that is you put in the title for your YouTube video. And then what Tubi will do is you go into it and say, hey, this is my alternate title or my alternate thumbnail. And what they'll do is they'll alternate between it. So let's say you can do a test for 7 days, and day one will have title one, day two will have title two, day three will have title one, day four will have title two, and so forth. Same thing with the thumbnail. And then it will look at those results over 7 days, 14 days, or until it gets a statistically significant result and tell you which title yielded the better results, which thumbnail yielded the better results. You can do the same thing in email. That's not Tubi, but you would use, MailerLite, Drip, MailChimp, or anything like that. But by just doing those small components, you can make your marketing better without trying to come up with a whole new technique. Okay? All right. So that's A/B testing. That's software you can use. That's using AI. It's all about really making sure that when you're trying to make your marketing better, that AI can be that tool or that solution to help you get there. All right. The other thing I want you to think about when you're trying to enhance your marketing is thinking about video marketing. Video marketing is here to stay. Video marketing continues to be one of the strongest marketing tools out there. Now, often people are leaning more and more towards what they call short form content, which means real short, things that are more in that 60-second range, 90-second range. And then sometimes when people are doing product videos, like on their website, they're getting up to, 2 minutes. But the idea is when you're trying to connect with your audience, when you're trying to help people understand who you are, your business, your brand, and what you have to offer, video allows you to have a more comprehensive marketing message because you can have the voice, you have the visual that people can see. You can often put B-roll into these videos. And also there's a creative aspect to doing the videos that can really pull people in. So when you're thinking about if you're marketing and struggling, think about how you can use video. And when I say that, for a lot of people, they're like, well, I'm doing video on social media. But what I tell a lot of people is I'm like, well, you're doing video in other places. Like if you have a cooking class, do you have a promo video for your cooking class that shows you cooking, shows the class, shows the menu, shows the products? Like, why not have that? Especially if it's a cooking class you're going to do 4 times a year. It's a good investment to create that video because not only can that teaser go in social media, go in other platforms, that teaser can be on the sales page for that course. And therefore, you're not just selling the course through text written on the page, you're using video to help sell that class. Same thing with products. People do that when you do makeup products, when you do purses, bags, showing people using that product and so forth, I think will really help and help your business kind of soar from there. All right. I'm going to wrap things up in 2 minutes. I'm so sorry. I know we're running a little bit over. The other thing I want you to think about is while there's so much to do with your marketing, as far as I just gave you 2 examples, AI and video marketing. We talked about campaigns. We talked about layers. One piece I do think we forget is we forget to invest. And when I talk about invest, 2 things I want you to think about: investing in your team, investing in you. And actually, I'm going to throw a third one there: investing in your business. And what I mean by that is we often forget to replenish. We feel in our business that we're kind of almost like take. We work crazy hours. So that means you're not getting the sleep you need. We are, stressing about or worrying about. So we don't maybe take care of ourselves or take care of the things that can really help us, or we're missing a meal or eating a little bit later, all that stuff. I want you to turn that around this year. I want you to think about how are you replenishing the things that drive you forward? How are you making sure that in your business, you are feeling fulfilled? Because what I find is a lot of times people's marketing becomes stale. It starts to get sluggish. It doesn't reflect that like vibrancy that their brand or business originally kind of reflected. And that's because they're worn out. They just feel burned out. They just feel almost like down to the nub, as they say. And if you feel that way, if your team, if you have a team, feels that way, what can happen is it can diminish the work that you're doing. And what I don't want you to think about is that all the problems with marketing are just doing more marketing. Sometimes the problems with marketing is that we're not taking care of ourselves. We're not taking care of our team. We're not reinvesting. We're not spending time to go to conferences. Meaning before you start your business, you might have gone to like a ton of conferences, met with a ton of people, interviewed people, did all this fun, great stuff. And then you start working your business and you're like, I ain't got time for that. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. And what happens is you don't take time off. And without taking time off, your brain doesn't get a sense to rest. You don't get a chance to get creative ideas to kind of seep in. You don't have a chance to relax. If you're always in this kind of like, gotta go mode, you may not have, the energy to reflect and really reassess your marketing. So take time off, think about those things. Think about what you can do if you do have a team on how do you recognize people for great work. We've started to put tools in place even in our team to make sure not only can I recognize them, but our team can recognize each other. We have this new thing called development days that we're doing in our business, and you can do the same thing for you. Is making sure that you're taking time to do research, that you have days in the year that literally are just for you to develop yourself, whether it's presentation skills, whether it's developing your cooking skills, whether it's working on your writing skills, whatever skills you want to enhance in your business, you want time to do it. Because what I find is I see all these like online summits and things I want to go to, and I'm like, I ain't got no time for that. And that's just because I haven't made time. So I'm changing my process. I'm setting them up and putting them on my calendar. I'm holding that time so that I can reinvest, because by me reinvesting and being in those creative environments again, it's much easier for me to look at my marketing and see the light and see the changes and see what needs to go into effect. All right. So I kept everyone a little bit later. Thank you so much for staying a little bit later. I wanted to just get through at least that slide. But if you do have questions after this webinar, if you have questions about anything we covered in this webinar, you can always email us at support@veganmainstream. No matter where you watch this, if there's a chat box, you can just post it there and I can answer those questions as well, or you can just reach out to us as much. Oh, yeah. You can definitely check out the replay. We have the replay in place, so you can check out the replay as well. But I do want to make sure, well, I'm going to wrap up on our social media and our live stream here. Just check and make sure there's no questions, and then I'll jump into the Zoom and we can wrap things up there. But thank you everybody for staying a little bit longer. I really, really appreciate it. I try to keep these only the hour, but every once in a while I do go over. So thank you so much. But if you have a question, let me know in the chat. If not, thank you so much for staying. Thank you so much for joining, and I can't wait to see you in our next webinar. All right.